Hello, everyone, and welcome to a new show, a new kind of series I want to do. I want to start focusing on the music of a specific year. And of course, this sticks to rock music, hard rock, heavy metal. And I just want to start it off the first episode I do like this with what I think is, my opinion, one of the most important years in music, especially popular rock music, and probably one of my favorite years, if not my favorite. So basically, what I'll do is I kind of just want to highlight and show off some of the great albums that were released during that time, and there could be albums that I don't own, but I know they're great, so I'm gonna give some honorable mentions at the end, and trying to gonna show everything off on vinyl because it's a bigger image for everyone to see. Stuff I don't have on vinyl, I'll try to put on CD or cassette to show you also. So right now, we're just going to start off. Again, it's 1967. There's this psychedelic sound, this new sound coming out. There's a lot of these bands popping up on the West Coast, most notably San Francisco. The Haight-Ashbury district in San Francisco is just lit up with all this new art, this fashion, this music. And starting in June, it's christened the Summer of Love. So there's going to be a lot of great artwork, a lot of great albums, a lot of amazing, legendary Hall of Fame bands that came out during this year and debuted. Other bands made landmark albums during this year. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to just show off Lyndon B. Johnson's our president. The Vietnam War is at its all-time high. And we're going to get started right now with a little recap of the albums. First up, we're going to show off Bob Dylan, Bob Dylan's greatest hits. Now, in 1967, Bob Dylan was recovering from his motorcycle crash um, following the tour that he just burned himself out in 1966, touring behind Highway 65 Revisited, and also, Highway 61 Revisited, I think in 1965 when it came out, and Blonde on Blonde, and Dylan Going Electric. And Dylan was such a spokesperson for the 60s generation, especially the music scene. It was nothing like ever before that came out with the folk music. So this is Bob Dylan's greatest hits. Pretty much what it says, greatest hits, picks up some of his greatest singles that were released in the 60s. Also, Positively 4th Street was available on LP on the first time through this. It was only available for in a 45 single. And I always like the back album artwork, especially showing the discography of Dylan up to until that point. And Dylan would follow up 1967 with John Wesley Harding, which I do have on CD. I didn't grab it, but I don't have it on vinyl. I don't believe I have it on vinyl. Do not have it on vinyl. Anyway, what a great album by Bob Dylan. His first greatest hits. He would go on to release Greatest Hits Volume 2 and also Greatest Hits Volume 3. Next up, English band The Hollies, which featured their Graham Nash, which obviously would go on and become even more famous with the supergroup Crosby, Stills, and Nash. Also Crosby, Stills, Nash, and Young. Hollies Evolution, as you can see the artwork coming through. Hollies were an English pop band. This is the first LP released on Epic Records and features the hit single and my favorite Hollies song, Carrie Ann. Just a great album, very psychedelic artwork. Yeah, the Hollies. Next up, we got Country Joe and the Fish. This is their sophomore album. Their first album released, Electric Music for the Mind and Body, was very, very psychedelic sounding and very weird, especially for the times. This features probably their most well-known song, I Feel Like I'm Fixing to Die. And also the Fish Cheer, which opens it up. This says comes with a giant full-color fish game, but I bought this used, so I never had the game. I've never seen it, so I guess I don't have to research that. Next up, the Moody Blues. This is the first album that really put them on the map. They released the album in '65, The Magnificent Moodies, and they had a hit single with Go Now. But this has their signature song, Nights in White Satin. And this is kind of like one of the first prog progressive music, prog rock albums. Also on here, The Afternoon, which is also known as Tuesday Afternoon, which is a pretty big hit. And as it says, it features the London Festival Orchestra, So a lot of orchestra on there, along with the instruments of guitar, drums, bass, piano. Next up, probably the greatest album by, I would say, the greatest supergroup of all time, Cream. This is Disraeli Gears. I believe this came out of October or November of '67. I can't remember exactly. Very psychedelic artwork. Again, just psychedelic blues featuring, of course, Eric Clapton, Jack Bruce, Ginger Baker. The first album, Fresh Cream, was such a huge influential album, such a loud album, which came out the year prior in 1966. But it was very bluesy hard rock album. This is more psychedelic, and of course, this features one of the greatest guitar riffs of all time, "Sunshine of Your Love." Next up, January '67 saw the release of the Doors' self-titled album. The Doors, such a huge, influential band, one of the biggest bands of all time. Jim Morrison, one of the biggest rock stars of all time. And you can see here, starting from the first album, Jim Morrison kind of is the focal centerpiece of the band. The good-looking guy, the Lizard King called himself. And this is just, every track on here is amazing. But I think every Doors song is amazing. I don't think they made a bad song. Break On Through, Light My Fire, Alabama Song, and of course the epic title, or not title track, epic song that ends the album, The End. They also followed up in the same year, which is, you don't see this happen anymore, with another amazing album, Strange Days. And a lot of these bands in '67 released 2 albums that year, which is just unheard of. And amazing albums too, not only like okay albums, amazing albums. So the sophomore album doesn't really feature the band on the artwork. The only album by the Doors which doesn't feature the band, and only on the back there's a little poster of them. But yeah, Strange Days, of course, features Strange Days. The biggest hit off here was People Are Strange and Love Me Two Times. Also, When the Music's Over ends the album, which I actually love that song. One of my favorite Doors songs. Next up, we got another greatest hits that came out. This is the Byrds' greatest hits. Now, the Byrds were a folk rock band. Debuted with Mr. Tambourine Man, which is a cover of a Dylan song, in 1965. The album was called the same. And this, a very folky band, which was starting to change. The album before this was Younger Than Yesterday. Sorry, I drew a blank. And you kind of seen the shift going from the folk music to the harder rock music to more of a rock and roll sound. And then this is, they got the psychedelic artwork on this. A huge seller when it came out. And, oh yeah, there's the discography in the back, kind of like Dylan had. But after this, they totally changed their sound again and go into like a country rock sound. Well, actually kind of like a straight country sound with Sweetheart of the Rodeo. And also the Notorious Byrd Brothers. You can see Roger McGuinn, and there's David Crosby, who, again, would go on to be more famous in Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young. Another band that debuted in 1967, one of the most famous bands of all time, Grateful Dead. This is their self-titled debut album. Now, this is more of a pop rock album. Songs are a little over 2 minutes, mostly of them. Only two songs over 5 minutes, one song 10 minutes, which ends at Moody Blues. The Golden Road to Unlimited Devotion. Also some blues covers like Beat On Down the Line, Good Morning Little Schoolgirl. Just a really good album. And this is before the Grateful Dead became the Grateful Dead like we know it now with their live opuses and all that. Next up, Vanilla Fudge, in my opinion, one of the most underrated albums of all time. This should always be in like the greatest albums list. This is mostly covers though. You got the Beatles' Ticket to Ride on there. People Get Ready, which is written by Curtis Mayfield. And the Impressions, She's Not There, which was a zombie song written by Rod Argent. Bang Bang was a Sonny Bono song. You Keep Me Hanging On, which was made famous by the Supremes. Of course, a Holland and Dozier song. Eleanor Rigby, another Beatles cover on here. But it's just psychedelic, heavy music. You Keep Me Hanging On was a hit off this album. And if you haven't heard this, I suggest you listen to it. And definitely start with You Keep Me Hanging On and then go back and put it on. It just really cool, psychedelic, heavy covers of these popular songs at the time. Next up, Jefferson Airplane's sophomore album. This is Surrealistic Pillow, the first album to feature Gray Slick, which is right there. Huge album for the time, especially during the Summer of Love. Features White Rabbit, which is a kind of a psychedelic take on Alice in Wonderland. Also, Somebody Love, which was a huge song. And Jerry Garcia from the Grateful Dead actually had a lot of influence on this album. He's credited as being a musical and spiritual advisor, which I don't know if he provided the LSD, the pot, or whatever. But yeah, I mean, I always butcher his name, but Jorma, I don't want to say his last name is always butcher. Just some great guitar work by him, especially some acoustic tracks like Embryonic Journey, which is just amazing, and also features Marty Ballin. Drew blank there. Marty Ballin, the other vocalist, the male vocalist. There's Marty there. Yeah, just some really good stuff. And then they followed up, another band that followed up the same year with a heavier album. This is After Bathing at Baxter's. Very political. And again, Jorma's guitar work is amazing, especially on the song Spare Change, which is like, I believe it's about 10 minutes. It's very long instrumental. Not really any hits off it here. It wasn't a big hit, but Won't You Try / Sunday Afternoon was pretty decent, and Bout of You and Me and Peniel, excuse me, was a kind of a Jefferson Airplane standard. Not really a hit, radio hit, but a well-known song from Jefferson Airplane. So yeah, pretty cool album. And the as you can see, there's only 2 tracks on side 1. It's kind of a almost, not I want to say a rock opera, but the music plays into each other. Next up, got another band with a female vocalist you may have heard of. This is Big Brother and the Holding Company, their self-titled debut, featuring a woman that you may have heard of by the name of Janis Joplin. And obviously Janis was the focal point of this band, the standout, the star. Once they played the Monterey Pop Festival, which is a huge festival in 1967, very influential and a huge landmark for a lot of artists, especially Janis Joplin, The Who, Jimi Hendrix, Otis Redding. Bye Bye Baby is probably the most well-known song off here. But yeah, just really good stuff, and they'll follow this up with Cheap Thrills, which would actually have more of a input from Janis Joplin. Next up, we have Moby Grape's self-titled debut. This is the censored cover. The uncensored cover actually had this guy here. I believe that's Don Stevenson, his name. Given the middle finger, it was airbrushed out. Which, they didn't have Photoshop back in '67, so it was airbrushed out so they could sell it in the stores. Pretty cool live shot with the kind of like the acid water paint there in the background, which they used to do in a lot of live shows back then. And again, this comes with a full giant color poster, but I never seen it what it used. And thanks Stan Cresta for writing all of the album. Never got why people wrote on their vinyl back then. I guess no one stole them. But yeah, I hate when they do that because it really ruins the artwork. But Moby Grape, another great band, very underrated, not very that well known, but they never really followed up their self-titled debut with another great album. Next up is what I may say maybe, if not the greatest album of all time, one of the top 3 greatest albums of all time. And this is my original copy. There's some damage down there also on the back, which, it's hard to part with because it's my original copy. I've had it so long. I've had it for over 20 years. I always said if I find a better condition one, I'll grab it, but I haven't yet. Yeah, Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band by the Beatles. Also the first rock album to print the lyrics on the artwork. And this is just so cool. Like, you could just stare at this for days. And it's also, I still have the inserts which came with it. There where you can kind of just, like little badges. You could prop this up, but I'm glad I still have it intact. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what I could say what happens if it's said about this. It may feature the Beatles' favorite song, A Day in the Life. Such an amazing album. Released in June of '67. It really ushered in the Summer of Love, especially coming from the biggest band of all time, especially in the 60s. And they followed up at the end of the year, and this was released in late November in the United States and early December in the United Kingdom. This is Magical Mystery Tour. It was a movie at the time. This was the soundtrack from it. Unfortunately, the book was ripped out, and this pretty much reads like a greatest hits Magical Mystery Tour. Obviously, The Fool on the Hill, Flying, which was an instrumental, Blue Jay Way was a George Harrison composition. Your Mother Should Know, I'm the Walrus, Hello Goodbye, Strawberry Fields Forever, Penny Lane, Baby Rich Man, and All You Need Is Love. Again, it reads like almost like a greatest hits, except for maybe like Flying and Blue Jay Way. Next up, I don't own this on vinyl. It's really tough to find an original pressing, but I can get a modern day repress for probably $20, which I don't want to do. But I have it on CD, and this is the same CD I owned since I was a teenager. I think I was like 13 when I bought this, and I just looked at this, and somehow this isn't like really that scratched or worn out, which I'm kind of surprised by. But it's the debut album from the Velvet Underground. This is Velvet Underground and Nico, produced by Andy Warhol. Does the artwork on here. Obviously, this is Lou Reed's band. They played Andy Warhol's Factory, and this is definitely psychedelic. Got a garage rock sound, fuzzy tone on the guitars, but definitely ahead of its time. Definitely nothing like this in '67, before or after. Next up, we had another debut. This band wasn't, popular when this was released yet, but they became one of the greatest rock bands of all time. Definitely top 10. Talking about Pink Floyd, this is Piper at the Gates of Dawn. This is pre-David Gilmour. It features Syd Barrett, which is vocals and guitar on all songs. Most of the writing was done by Barrett. A couple songs by Waters. 2 instrumentals were... just the 1 instrumental on here was written by the entire band. But yeah, Dick Mason is the only member of Pink Floyd that stayed on every album from the beginning until the very last album, The Endless River. So yeah, 1967 did see the release of Pink Floyd. They had a pretty big following in the United Kingdom, but didn't really make it in the United States until Ummagumma was released, which was a half live album, half studio album, released in 1969. And of course, they would go on to make Metal, Dark Side of the Moon, Wish You Were Here, Animals, and of course, The Wall. And this guy also debuted in 1967. Jimi Hendrix with the Jimi Hendrix Experience, REO Experienced. Amazing album. Such great artwork. Probably one of my favorite album covers of all time. Of course, this features Foxy Lady, Purple Haze, Manic Depression, the title track, Are You Experienced, The Wind Cries Mary, Fire, Hey Joe. And yeah, when this burst on the scene, there was nothing like this. The greatest guitarist of all time. The fashion, just everything about it. No one played guitar like him. And again, he followed it up the same year. Act as Bold as Love. It kind of folds out like that. You got the lyrics in the middle there. I think he was a big Beatles fan, especially of Sgt. Pepper's. And gotta think he got that from there. But again, this features Castles Made of Sand, Little Wing of 6 Was 9. Just amazing album by him. Top 5 albums. And then I got 2 more to show you. This is a compilation by the Rolling Stones called Flowers. You see the psychedelic artwork, but the Stones really never caught on to the psychedelic thing. This wasn't their thing. They tried, but didn't do it. This was only released in the United States. Features Ruby Tuesday, Have You Seen Your Mother, Baby, Let's Spend a Night Together, Lady Jane, Of Time, a cover of The Temptations, My Girl. Well, actually written by Smokey Robinson, but Temptations are the one that made it popular. A couple songs are only available in here. We got kind of a cool greatest hits. I guess they kind of had a contract to fulfill. And this is the mono version that I own. And then to end '67, they kind of, looks like they stole a little off of the Beatles. Instead of Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, here we have Their Satanic Majesty's Request with a cool lenticular cover there. Really, really cool artwork. Love the artwork. Not a bad album. A lot of people don't really like it. get some bad reviews, but I think it's really cool. It's definitely different. Nothing like the Stones ever did before. And 2000 Man was later covered by Ace Frehley on the Kisses Dynasty album. Also, She's a Rainbow is basically kind of like the only small hit off of here. But their most psychedelic song, and one of the most psychedelic songs I'd say of all time, 2,000 Light Years from Home, is on this album. So yeah, really, really cool stuff by the Stones. And there you can see the sleeve, kind of the same cloud pattern there, but red. And if you ever see this in the store, definitely pick it up. Even if you're not a fan of the album, just cool artwork and something cool to own. So yeah, that's kind of the highlights of 67 on the albums. And a couple of the honorable mentions, we got Blowing Your Mind by Van Morrison, which I don't own, and I don't own any of these honorable mentions. Also, Smiley Smile by the Beach Boys featured the Good Vibrations, which was a huge song by them. Probably one of my favorite Beach Boys songs. But you also had stuff, what else came out in 67? Kind of drawing a blank right now, but yeah, so much good music. Especially there's a lot of underground bands that are just great that you can still find on that Sundays label, and only on CD. But yeah, just some really amazing stuff. 1967 was such a popular year for music, and like I said, Bob Dylan released John Wesley Harding, which was kind of a country tinged folk album. Yeah, just some amazing stuff. Buffalo Springfield came out with Buffalo Springfield again. Yeah, just some really good stuff. And as I said, the Monterey Pop Festival took place in this year, which broke a lot of bands over in the United States, especially Jimi Hendrix, who was originally from Seattle, moved to England to kind of get popular, came back to the States and blew around off the stage. And The Who, which actually played Monterey Pop Festival, their 1967 The Who Sell Out was a huge album. Very like a concept album, which featured kind of jingles, like commercial jingles. Of course, the hit single I Can See for Miles off of that. But yeah, 1967, in my opinion, one of the greatest years ever in music, if not the greatest year ever in music. Very influential. And yeah, thanks for watching. Now I'm going to be doing more videos like this, but I'm going to not do the years in chronological order. I'm just going to randomly pick a year, talk about my favorite albums, seminal albums, greatest hits from that year. And oh, one more thing I want to mention. Speaking of greatest hits from the year, Procol Harum released Whiter Shade of Pale, which is, in my opinion, one of the greatest songs ever written. But yeah, thanks a lot for watching. I think I have the year I'm going to do next, but I don't want to mention yet. So stay tuned, subscribe if you like these videos. More to come. And once you subscribe, you'll be getting emails of every time I post a new video. And again, we have the the album rankings, which I haven't done in a while. But there'll be some album rankings coming up again. Also, my music hauls. And now we're doing this, the year in music. And 1967 was the first year I started with. But also, I'm going to do stuff like greatest studio albums, greatest live albums, greatest debut albums, things like that. So yeah, stay tuned. And again, if you want to see any of my collection, I post a lot on my Instagram page at Gary of the Elysiums. You can also check out my band, The Elysiums. We're on Facebook, we're on Instagram, we're on Spotify, we're on Apple Music, YouTube, anywhere you can find us. Again, thanks for watching, and everyone stay safe out there.